And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, comic book fans. This is Everything You Needed to Know. And today, Everything You Needed to Know is about Marvel's premier heroine, their powerhouse, Carol Danvers, formerly known as Ms. Marvel, currently known as Captain Marvel. You may have heard that actress Katie Sackhoff is being considered to be Captain Marvel in an upcoming Marvel film down the road. You may have heard that Ronda Rousey, MMA star, has actually expressed interest in portraying that role, and given her athleticism, I think she'd bring incredible dynamicism to the role. But before we get into movies that haven't been made yet and deals that haven't been finalized, let's talk about the history of the character and truly give you everything you need to know. Starting off, it's Marvel Superheroes number 13, the second appearance of Captain Mar-Vell, the Kree captain, in which Carol Danvers appears as the security chief at Cape Canaveral. Mar-Vell is working there undercover. He is disguised as a NASA engineer, but he is supposedly infiltrating Earth on behalf of the Kree military. Carol Danvers goes on as a support character in Marvel Superheroes and eventually into the pages of Captain Marvel's own book and also in the pages of the Avengers, where Mar-Vell made several significant appearances. Carol Danvers came into her own, however, in the pages of her own book in the 1970s. She appears in Ms. Marvel number 1. The events of the previous Captain Marvel series exposed Carol to the Psyche Magnetron, a Kree sci-fi device, which overlaid on her Mar-Vell's physical powers. So she now has superhuman strength, the ability to fly, heightened durability, and a precognitive seventh sense that she can use to predict danger uncontrollably, but to predict danger before it actually occurs. In Ms. Marvel, she worked at Now magazine, a publication under J. Jonah Jameson. And so some of the Spider-Man support cast became supporting cast in Ms. Marvel's book. Ms. Marvel was scripted beautifully by Chris Claremont from an early issue. I believe issue number 3 is where he comes on, and he continued through until the end of the book. Ms. Marvel wore that flip-feathered hairstyle, which was popular in the 1970s, and her costume was somewhat derivative of Captain Mar-Vell's familiar primary red and blue, but artist Dave Cockrum redesigned the outfit and gave her what we affectionately call the Lady Lightning costume. The black thigh-high boots, the body piece, the red belt scarf, and Ms. Marvel continued until her book ended with issue number 23. Chris Claremont had storylines in mind. He had been building some major subplots, some of which involved Mystique. You're familiar with her from the pages of the X-Men and the leader of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, later the Sisterhood of Evil Mutants, later the Brotherhood again. Also, it was Chris Claremont who intended that Ms. Marvel would have her powers stolen from her by Rogue. That story, however, did not see print because her book ended before we got to that point. Ms. Marvel spent some time as an Avenger. She was a mainstay character in the 7-member lineup. She was the powerhouse female who found herself pregnant. That pregnancy was the result of manipulations from Immortus, and in the 200th issue, the double-sized 200th issue, done by Jim Shooter and illustrated by George Perez, we saw Ms. Marvel written out of the book, gone off with Marcus Immortus to live in limbo, supposedly happy ever after. However, there is a beautiful essay that you should read, a very informative essay, which is titled The Rape of Ms. Marvel, and it talks about the shoddy treatment that the character got. When Chris Claremont had the opportunity to bring Ms. Marvel, Carol Danvers, back into our eyesight, Avengers Annual number 10, we're introduced to Rogue, who has stolen Carol's powers, and Carol is able to confront the Avengers on how they failed her. It was beautifully written, there's a tearful moment in there, and it's wonderfully illustrated by Michael Golden. So if you don't have Avengers Annual number 10, it's something I think you need to have. Carol would go on into the pages of the Uncanny X-Men. She would appear with the X-Men, helping them infiltrate the Pentagon. She would go off into space, where she was given a completely new set of powers. She was hypercharged and became binary, a character vastly more powerful than she had been before. Instrumental in that, she joined the Starjammers, the same team that Cyclops' father, Corsair, was leader of. And that was where she was for quite some time until she eventually found her way back to Earth, found her way back in the Avengers. Her powers on the wane, Carol Danvers turned to alcohol as a comfort, going through a period of heavy drinking, misusing her powers, fouling up a couple of times severely. She turned herself around, quit drinking, put herself into a treatment program, and became a contributory Avenger. It was very, very important to her, her membership in the Avengers, in Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and she persisted as an Avenger and as a solo character. She got her own book again, this time the book lasting for 50 issues. Some earlier subplots resolved, some new subplots introduced, and after Ms. Marvel's book ended, she got a promotion, and she became Captain Marvel. Excellent book, scripted by Kelly Sue DeConnick. Very feminist-centric take on Ms. Marvel, but a character who has always been very upfront, very forward, very aggressive, very sure of herself, and always very, very powerful. Currently, you can find Carol Danvers in, he is also an important character, the inspiration to young Kamala Khan, who is currently calling herself Ms. Marvel. Now, Kamala is an Inhuman, and she is, as a young teenage girl, a big fan of Captain Marvel, and she uses her as an inspiration in her regular adventuring. So if you're not checking out the new Ms. Marvel, who is Kamala Khan, I'd strenuously recommend that you do that. If you're not checking out Captain Marvel in the Carol Corps, I'd recommend getting into that before Secret Wars is over. And when Secret Wars is done and Marvel does their massive relaunch, Captain Marvel is gonna have her own book again, and I strenuously recommend signing up for that. So, from the early days of the Silver Age in Marvel Superheroes 13 all the way to the current Secret Wars, that in a nutshell is Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, and that is everything you need to know about her. Flashback Comics and Games, check out the Troy David spotlights that appear here. Also, check out the new comic release Wednesday, our top 5 picks. Me and my co-host Kevin Goswan from comicsonline.com give you our top 5 picks for each week. And also check out the Flashback Comics and Games website. Be sure to like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter.